every time that you center yourself, you are more centered than ever before. Every time you meditate, you are more peaceful than ever before. Being one with God is like a hobby. It takes a practice, lots of practice to make it happen. We've been practicing other things in our lives. We practice a lot of what most people might call distractions. They look like entertainment, they look like fun, and they are. But if we're doing that instead of knowing who we are, as distinct from, I know who I am, but I'm going to do this, it's a whole different ballgame, isn't it? It's like having a fine wine because you really enjoy the taste of wine, as distinct from drinking whatever's in front of you to escape from where you are. The Buddhist practice would say any type of vice, any distraction is simply an avoidance of a feeling. Like we get close to something, and then instead we opt for a distraction. Do you suppose this builds faith in yourself or doubt? Kind of interesting, huh? I had doubts this morning going on. And I thought, oh, I got a perfect out. I said, I'm giving it to God. Okay, take good care of me, will you please? I'm leaving, as most of you know, for Europe right after I leave here. And I went to pack a few extra things in the bag while I was out in the car, and the zippers on the bag broke. Faith. I had my computer bag, so I repacked everything. I even took a bunch of things out of my suitcase, realizing that it was probably heavier than it should be. So it gave me an opportunity to do something a little better. I even had doubts about getting here. We all have these types of things, they happen. And I say, but you know, I thought this through, I'm going to be here. And knowing that all of my thoughts are divinely led at one level or another, I have faith that it's going to happen. And guess what? I'm standing here. Imagine that. Each and everything that we do is preceded by a thought. All you need to do to find out what you're thinking is look at your reality in the moment. That makes sense? You couldn't come here and sit down and then say, oh, I'll come here and sit down. You had to think it first. Does this include having faith? Does this include your health? Interesting, huh? You say, oh, I chose to be unhealthy? I would tell you absolutely. So why would I do that? Well, I don't know, you probably had to punish yourself or something. Something that you were judge, jury, and executioner of, and carried it out with your thoughts. Or I would suggest to you, it cannot happen. Is that amazing? Now, I had thoughts I would be here, I had faith that I would make it, and I'm standing here. That gives me confidence to have more faith, because faith, as what I would call, I just made up a definition for it, the way I was thinking, it's something that occurs beyond anything that I could reason or logic about, and it happens anyway, often in direct opposition to what I might have been thinking. And yet it's what is so. For example, I could jump off of a tall place and say, I'm going to go up. I'm in opposition to what is, aren't I? You see, my faith in gravity is stronger than my faith in flying. It's a program. You know, some people can do odd things. Well, I'm one of them probably, you know, I can walk on fire. Well, that doesn't have any logic to it, does it? Or maybe it does. I do take people on firewalks. I'm a certified firewalk instructor. You might say, well, that's crazy. It's 1,420 some odd degrees, this fire. Think about an oven at 400 degrees, that's a good 4th degree burn, yeah? And yet, with the bottom of your feet, with the faith that occurs when you become one with God, when you transcend all of your thinking, when you simply understand that we are just an energy in this human form, Not much different than the energy in that ceiling, and that's just science too. We're all just a molecular structure put together in a specific way that shows up in who or what we are. I kind of think about that sometimes. I'm glad I'm not a table or something, but here I am, a live being. This is the way my molecular structure is arranged. It's not much different than others. You know, I saw this thing on an Oprah deal on YouTube about Jill Bolte Taylor. I don't know how many people have seen that. And she totally lost the left brain, which, as you might know, is logic and a part of our brain that actually assimilates what it is that we perceive as truth in front of us and puts it into some manner and shape and being that we can actually correspond and communicate with each other in such a way that we all get it. But the right brain doesn't do that. It's just all over the place. And it only sees this pure energy. And she, incidentally, was a neural-brain, neural-brain scientist, something, brain neuroscientist, something like that. And she studied these things. She actually was having a stroke. And she had the presence of being present throughout the entire episode of this stroke. And being a brain neurosurgeon or neuroscientist, she was able to understand certain things that we are actually operating from and are not paying attention to. For example, when she looked out at the wall with her right brain only, she could not tell the difference between the molecular structure in her arm and the molecular structure in the wall. It was just energy to her. That's quite amazing. She made a statement that just kind of blew me away. It said something about when people are having certain neurological dysfunctions, and yet their brains are intact and they're trapped in their bodies and we think there's nobody home. She had that experience. And she's going to take this experience to hospitals and places where this type of maladies are dealt with the understanding that there is still a live human being that can think and be present in the moment. Pretty amazing thought, yes? Throughout the entire time, you see, when she was ill, she had the faith that she would get well. She knew something was operating outside of herself. She got to experience it firsthand. And you see, just like me being here, just like you being here, if you take that as a bit of faith and start looking for evidence of faith in your life, it gives you the confidence, you see, based on the results that you get. You get a result. You had faith, you're going to get in the car, you're going to make it. You get there. And that gives you confidence. You can have more faith, you see. And then you have another place that you want to go, another thing that you want to do. And you have the confidence that says you can do that. And then you get a little evidence of that again. Do you see how that can be very powerful in your life? How is it that we're operating? You know, most people today have accepted pain, misery, despair, and illness as the normal way of being. I really want to tell you that is not the truth. Otherwise, most people would be born ill, wouldn't they? I mean, just think of the logic of it. We've so much come apart from ourselves that we have lost the faith in who and what we are, the God talent within you. We've forgotten. We're out of touch. That's why I love that centering. That's why I love meditation. It puts me back in touch. When I begin to lose faith, when I say, oh boy, everything I've done is just going to heck in a handbasket. And that's my evidence. And now I'm creating doubt, despair, and failure. That's distinct. Now listen, faith, confidence, and power. Which would you rather choose? It's interesting. See, we need to not do this by default.